This afternoon's guest has a firm belief in quality, Saskatchewan-made and distilled quality. Since 2015, Black Fox Distillery has been Saskatchewan's premier farm-based micro-distillery located just minutes from Saskatoon. Barb Stefanyshyn-Cote is the co-owner of the locally owned and locally produced line of gin, whiskey, and liqueurs that are shipping globally. Today's episode may inspire you to take your beverages to a whole new level. Welcome, Barb. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Barb. This is a real great opportunity.
Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you. So tell me about your background, because that doesn't look like a traditional office. Where in the heck are you?
I am actually right in our retail section of Black Fox Farm and Distillery. Behind me is the distillery itself, the distilling room. You will see our hybrid pot still is what it's called.
Okay.
It was custom made for us in Germany.
Oh, in Germany. Now, I know very little about how alcohol is distilled. Even though I'm from Moose Jaw, you'd think, given Al Capone's history, I would know it inside out. And can you give me the, pretend I'm 5 and explain how alcohol is distilled to me?
Absolutely. I could tell you in 2 minutes or less how to make booze. It's really easy. So what you do is you start from grain. And grain has a lot of starch in it, and it's the starch that gets turned into alcohol.
Okay.
So what you do is you take the grain, you grind it, and then you mash it, which means you add in water. And in our case, we add in enzymes as well. And the enzymes break those starches down into sugar.
Okay.
Then from there, you take it and you put it into a fermentation tank. And you add in yeast, and the yeast does its magic and turns that sugar into alcohol. But the problem is that when it's making when the yeast is active, it doesn't only make ethanol, which is the alcohol you can drink. It also makes methanol and butyl alcohol and fusel alcohols and all those other things that'll make you go blind.
Right. Okay.
So the whole idea then is to put it into the still to separate the good, the bad, and the ugly. And as it travels through the still, the different things get separated and removed. And at the end, you end up with your alcohol, your base alcohol.
And so is the process the same for each of the different products that you make? So whiskey and gin, is it the exact same process, just a separate byproduct then?
That's exactly what happens. So if I take it from the still and I put it in a barrel and I age it for 3 years, it becomes whiskey. If I take it and I carbon filter it and take it up to 96% alcohol, so very, very concentrated,
Yes.
then it becomes vodka. If I take it and then infuse it with botanicals such as juniper and cardamom and all of the other fun things, then it becomes gin. If I take it and put in fruit juice, it becomes a liqueur. So you do start with a base alcohol, and what you do with it after is how you make the different products.
So how did you learn all of this? Because my university education did not give me any of that. I may have consumed it, but...
Well, it's interesting because our background too did not come with any recipes or any training whatsoever. When we decided to do this project, we were really green. And the distiller is my husband. He's the one who does all of the distilling. And he went and he took a couple courses. You can take courses on how to make alcohol. And he also worked a little bit in one of the distilleries down in Chicago, where he went and volunteered for a week and spent time learning how to do it. And then we came back, and a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. Okay. Now, who did you con into trying some of those trial products?
Well, obviously it was us to start with. And there were some, I will admit, that kind of went right back into the process again because they needed a lot more attention.
So have you guys always been a little bit of a connoisseur for tastes and flavors?
Actually, it's interesting you should say that, because myself, I am not, but my husband is. So in our house, I like to say that I'm the cook, but he's the chef. And so, you know, he's the one who has a much more of an appreciation and a far better palate than
Okay.
mine.
Yep. Now that's interesting to me because, you know, when you go to, I'll say a fancy restaurant, which we don't get to do too often right now, but when you go to a fancy restaurant, you have that nice meal, you really enjoy and appreciate the different flavors versus, you know, cooking at home and it all starts to taste the same after a while. So I would think that that becomes a real, almost like an art, right? There's some art and there's some science in there, because just because your husband likes it doesn't always mean that the general public likes it.
Oh,
Right?
that is so true. And there's so many things that I agree, I agree with what you're saying. Is a chef looks to his ingredients to make something that's unique and special. And that is something that we've actually cottoned on to as well. It's
Mm-hmm.
the ingredients that you start with that really make the difference in that end product.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what may be special to you
Yes.
may not resonate with the entire, the entire industry. And it depends who you're trying to target, because
Mm-hmm.
that makes a difference. I was reading a magazine about these specialty beers, and one person came up with a beer that you can shampoo with. And I thought, that's great, not for me.
Yeah, no, thank you. So that makes me to think of two things. So before we started our conversation today, you talked a little bit about tier 1 and tier 2. I understand that you are a tier 1 distiller. Can you just tell us a little bit about what that means to you?
Sure. So in Saskatchewan, we have just recently, they've altered the designation for craft distillers to have a type 1 and a type 2 distiller.
Mm-hmm.
Type 1 are those that start from the raw ingredients, the grains and the botanicals themselves. And a type 2 distiller is allowed to bring in pre-made alcohol or pre-made ethanol from other large distilleries.
Okay.
We're really proud to be a type 1 distiller.
Yeah.
Farming is our background. We were
Mm-hmm.
grain farmers for a lot of years.
Mm-hmm.
We understand agriculture, we respect agriculture, and it gives us that opportunity to show off our specific terroir that
Yeah.
we have here. And that's, it really does mean a lot to us. And I think
Yeah.
it means a lot to the customers as well.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it means a lot. Now, one question that comes to mind, with only 2 distillers in the province, are all of the, and let's say beer, for example. So is beer also in that same tier 1 or tier 2, or does it depend on the type of alcohol?
No, what they've done with this tier 1 and tier 2, it's across all alcohol, as in
Yes.
beer, wine, ciders, and hard spirits.
Wow. Okay,
Mhm.
so then the second question that comes to mind, because consumers are, I'll say, very used to maybe not a premium product, did you guys find, as you were finding your flavors, that you had to keep in mind that most of us as consumers are kind of generic? Or how did you really start to weave those special flavors in that really do make you that premier product?
Again, it came back to my husband, who's the palate in
Okay.
our operation, which was really good.
Yeah.
But it also, we're known in Saskatchewan for producing the best grains for breads, for pastas. Why should we be known for producing the best spirits and brews and wines that are out there? Well, not wine. Sorry, wine doesn't come from grain.
Right.
But what's really interesting is that we do have some very remarkable terroir here, and which is
Mhm.
often a term that you only hear that applies to wine, but it
Okay.
isn't. And there's a growing body of evidence that terroir shows up in whiskey especially, but we think it
Ah.
also shows up in our gins and our liqueurs and everything else.
Okay, that sounds good. So take me back to before 2015. Your husband and yourself, you're talking about what's next. Family farming is changing rapidly and drastically in this province and across the country. How did this conversation come about?
Yeah, really good question.
And how much gin and whiskey had you consumed before the conversation started?
Yes. So actually, our journey started in 2010. So 10 years ago,
Yep.
we were grain farming about 5,000 acres.
Okay.
And we also were partners in a fuel and fertilizer dealership. We ran a livestock nutrition consulting business from the farm. So we had a few things going on, but things were changing and we came to a crossroads.
Okay.
We recognized that grain farms were getting bigger, and for us to stay in the business, we either needed to expand and go that route, or we needed to do something different.
Yeah.
Two things kind of played in here in that at the time, there was no chance for expansion close to our existing farm because our neighbors had already got this idea of expanding, and they were already at 15 and 20 and 30,000 acres. So there was no land available to expand. And the second thing is that when we looked at our lifestyle, when we looked at our children, when we looked at our operation and what we like to do, being a large grain farmer wasn't it.
Yes.
And so that was when we made the decision to sell the family farm and do something different.
Oh, so you didn't just diversify, you actually changed complete lines of business.
Yes.
Ah, okay. I didn't realize that. So now you've obviously kept, an acre, a section, a quarter, a whatever to have the distillery. Have you not?
Actually, no. We sold entirely and we relocated 100 kilometers south.
Got it. So you were actually purchasing your inputs from farmers around you, probably those that you've known for years.
No, actually right now we grow the ingredients ourselves. We rent some land and it's grown specifically for us. So we choose the variety, we choose the fertilization program, we choose a lot of the things that go with it. And that's how we still claim that this is our grain that we grow.
Yes, exactly. And again, absolutely all of the inputs then, right from the fertilizer you're using on the grain to, okay, that makes more sense to me.
And the other part of it is we bought another farm. So we have land here, we have 80 acres now.
Okay.
And originally the idea here was we wanted to do something closer to the customer. As a grain farmer, you don't get those touch points directly with the customer so that you can actually, find out, am I doing a good job? Do you like what I'm producing? Do you not? And when we first purchased this land, we thought it was going to be vegetables and a winery.
Okay.
And we started off growing several vegetables, and we had a few good wrecks with some vegetables and decided that vegetables sucked. And then we switched. And right now, for those of you that aren't familiar with Black Fox, we actually do hard spirits. So we're a distillery and a flower farm. So we went from vegetables and a winery to flowers and a distillery. And it was a bit of a process. That's why the distillery was only open 5 years ago. The concept probably was started 7 or 8 years ago. By the time you build and get all the equipment into place and everything else, we opened our doors in 2015.
So tell me about how the flowers fit in here, because I did see that when I was preparing for our discussion today, and I thought, I don't know how this fits. So I actually didn't keep that language in there. So explain that one to me.
So when we had our little bit of a disaster with the vegetables, we started growing flowers. Again, another very long story, another podcast. But what we did is we sold flowers we sold at the farmer's market, we sold to some grocery stores, we sold to some florists, we did weddings, we did events, and we were the largest cut flower farm on the prairies, mainly because we were the only ones.
Okay.
It's not a business that people do, but we had up to 7 acres of cut flowers, which is absolutely massive in the small cut flower industry.
Exactly.
We've now since cut back to about 2 or 3 acres of flowers, depending on the year.
Okay.
And we do a U-pick. So people can come out to the farm and pick their own flowers.
Yes. You know what? Now that you say that and explain that, I have heard about you, but have never had the opportunity to be there. I have a very good friend who actually used to have a radio show as well. And he and his partner had been out to your place, and he talks about the U-pick, and the connection just never happened until right now. Okay. So is it still like flower stores and weddings and stuff that are purchasing from you? So it's or is it all U-pick?
No, it's all you pick now, and it's open to
Okay.
the public, and it is an opportunity to draw people out to the farm and to the
Yes,
distillery and introduce them to all of the products that we make here at Black Fox. So from the
exactly.
gins and the whiskeys and everything else.
Mhm.
But it's also another opportunity for us to engage them in agriculture.
Yes,
This is how things grow. This is, what happens when there's too much rain. This is what happens when there's not enough rain. This is what happens when the insects come. So it's our chance to have a dialogue with urban customers that sometimes you don't always get that opportunity to do.
exactly. Now, we talked earlier, so you have already expanded globally. And I know even within Canada, some of the provinces can be kind of challenging. But between global expansion, trying to find retailers locally who will carry the product, how does that happen? Is that all on your plate as well? Or does your husband do that part? Or how does that come to life?
Well, it's really interesting when you start a business like ours because it starts with two people. And
Hmm.
then two people realize that, oh my goodness, there's way too much work here for two of us to do. And then you start bringing on a team. And
Yes.
I am so pleased to say that our team is expanding all the time. And we're really thrilled to have that opportunity.
Hmm.
We now have a salesperson on full time. We have a marketing person. We have a
Ah,
controller. We have, um, we have an assistant distiller now
mhm.
that just started with us last fall. So
Okay.
it's really nice to have those extra people and they bring ideas and they bring
Yes.
suggestions and it's amazing how that synergy just expands with more people. And we have an amazing team. We're very thrilled to have our team. We have an events
Yeah.
coordinator. And so, yes, lots of
So,
great.
you know what? That's really interesting to me, Barb, because as a small business as well, there's times where you want to bounce something off someone. And when you're still really small, that's hard. Even if it's as simple as, the flowers you're planting or the, new flavors you're working on, the more people who are involved and have that input, typically the better product you can have in the end, right?
Mhm.
Now, is everybody located where you are right now? Does everybody
Yes,
drive out
actually
from
they are.
Saskatoon?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we've got a summer staff team that comes out as well to help with the yard maintenance and the plantings and the flowers and taking care of all of that. And
Mhm.
we do a fair lot of events out here at the farm. So
Ah.
people could come out. Right now we have a winter patio bar going. So
Oh,
it's,
very cool.
yes, and very cold too some days,
No
It's not
kidding,
just
hey?
cool.
January, nobody wanted to, leave
Funny
their
that way.
house.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually,
Exactly.
January was good. February has been miserable. So
Oh,
this
see,
year.
and I guess just, the little bit of distance between us. Barb, I'm gonna get you to just scooch toward there we go. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. We're just
No, there we
getting
go.
you off a little bit.
Sorry, I'm moving too much.
Ah, so if you were to go back and do it all over again, is there anything that you would do differently?
Yes, there's a few things. I think we would have tried to pick something sooner and focus on it.
Okay.
We started off with the vegetables and then,
Mhm.
and thinking winery. So we've planted fruit trees and realized quite quickly that we didn't know anything about fruit and didn't
Okay.
even like wine. So why on earth would it be a winery? Then then we were with the flowers and we liked the flowers, but the distillery is definitely where the operation needs to be. And that's where
Okay.
where our income is coming from. So I think if we had focused a little sooner, it
Mhm.
probably would have helped. We ended up, our name originally was Tierra del Sol, which is land of the sun.
Okay.
And we had Tierra del Sol and Black Fox Spirits.
Mhm.
The very first marketing company that we worked with took us aside and said, don't have two names. People are too
Yeah.
confused with two names.
Yeah.
So we had to come up with a single name that encompassed everything. So that's where Black Fox Farm and Distillery came from, which is
Okay.
incredibly long and cumbersome, but it does tell you exactly what we do.
Yes, it does. But excuse me, where does the black fox part come from?
So a black fox is from the red fox family. It
Okay.
is an anomaly, a genetic anomaly, just like an albino, but on
Mhm.
the other side of the color spectrum.
Okay.
And when we looked at it, we thought that, well, first off, when we were living at our other farm in Leask, we had a black fox come and live in our yard one summer. And it stayed for
Ah.
the whole summer, and it's just a really unique and beautiful animal to see.
Mm-hmm.
It would sleep underneath our semi that we were hauling grain with, and in the morning it would scamper away. I got to see it and a red
Oh,
fox
wow.
playing together one time. So it was something that was really unique. And
Yes,
that's what we thought our distillery would be. So
exactly.
a red fox is common, but a black fox is unique. There are many distilleries that are common, but Black Fox Farm and Distillery is unique.
Is very unique. Exactly.
Mhm.
And where is your industry going? There seems to be, I'll say, a bit of an explosion around craft brewers, which we're learning today isn't always necessarily the case. But where's the industry going?
Onward and upward. I really do feel that consumers and customers now really want to know more about their product and where it's coming from. And so
Exactly.
we are that direct connection right to the land, right
Mhm.
to where it's coming from. Like they can know and they can celebrate where and who makes their product. And I think
Exactly.
that's something that we're really excited to be a part of. And
Yes.
that's the part that we like the best.
Yeah.
So in an industry like ours, you have to like people.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
we like people.
Yes. Well, and you're welcoming people almost into your home because they're coming out for you pick, and I expect that they, purchase other merchandise while they're out there.
Mhm.
So, yeah, no, you really have to to like the people
Oh,
side of it.
yes. Yeah.
Do you know offhand how many retailers you have globally at this point?
Nope. Sorry. Nope.
Okay, how many
All I
Canadian provinces did you say we have so far?
So we are obviously in Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
We are in Alberta. We are available in Ontario, and we are around the world. We're available in China, and we are available in Europe. So
So
it's
did you
exciting.
consciously pick Europe and China? Like was that very conscious that you wanted to get into those markets, or was that one of the it just happened kind of things?
On those two markets in particular, we were very blessed that we had distributors from those two countries come to us and say, I want to carry your product.
Got
And
it.
so that was very fortunate. And now what we're doing is we're doing a lot of the marketing behind it to help support those distributors in those countries. So that's been interesting. And we're doing the same in Alberta, and we're doing the same in Ontario too.
Hmm. So does that involve some translation then for the product when you're overseas?
Yes, yes, it does. So in China, we just finished the Chineseization of everything that we've
Okay.
been doing.
So did you run into any nuances where the translation, let's say the translation of Black Fox was something you couldn't use, or were you able to keep everything consistent across the board?
So far it was. We're very lucky in Mandarin. There's a term called "moi he," and I'm sure I butchered that for any Mandarin speaker. Terribly sorry, but it refers like it's probably more like ebony fox than it is black fox, but I think it's
Okay.
very similar.
Okay, so it didn't have a negative connotation because lots of
No.
times we see that in translation,
Yes.
right? Or black fox could be an unlucky
Hmm.
sign when it's
Hmm.
translated or something. Okay, that
Yes.
makes sense. So how like is your focus on the retailers and getting your product out there, or how are you marketing then to the consumer?
Well, a lot of it is uh, obviously through social media. That is
Mhm.
by far. We're
Yeah.
very blessed that every once in a while that a podcaster reaches out and touches base with us. So that's been very advantageous. We do a lot of so here we like to bring people here.
Mhm.
So mark the second Saturday of June on your calendar because that's World Gin Day. And we
Ah,
always have a celebration here. And so we'll do something, whether it's virtual or in person.
okay.
Um, when it comes to out of the province in Alberta, we do a lot of tastings in
Mhm.
event or in the stores and such.
Yeah.
Any chance that we can to touch the customer is what we're looking for.
Yeah.
Obviously, COVID has changed a whole lot of things, but it will go back, and we're looking
Mhm.
forward to it.
Yes, we'll have a whole new normal when this comes out. Was
Right.
COVID in some ways good for you because people were at home and purchased their products from for home, or what kind of impact did you see?
COVID did a lot of things for us, both beneficial and well, I would almost say mostly beneficial, but it worked both ways. because we're here on the farm, we had a lot of space. And so we were able to
Ah,
invite people out to the farm to enjoy the space, to enjoy nature, to have, like, to seriously walk and smell the flowers
yeah.
when other places couldn't do that. So that was definitely an advantage to us. It
Mhm.
also, it was an advantage to others, as like to our customers as well, because now they had a place to go where they would be physically distant, and they wouldn't have to worry that way.
Exactly.
At the very beginning of the pandemic, we too started making hand sanitizer that was so necessary in our industry.
Hmm.
Interestingly enough, we did buy in pre-made alcohol to make our hand sanitizer
Yeah.
because ours is just too valuable to use for that.
Yes, exactly. I can completely understand that. Barb, believe it or not, we're out of time already.
Okay.
So, can I get you to quickly wrap up for us? And like, how do folks find you? Where's your website? What are your social channels?
Well, thanks so much for that. Our website is blackfoxfarmanddistillery.com. We are on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. Are at on Facebook, it's Black Fox Farm and Distillery. On Instagram, it's blackfox_spirits. So you can find us that way. And Twitter is at Black Fox Farm.
Perfect. Now, the one thing good about a long name is no matter what channel you go to, you probably found that your name was available.
Yes, it was, surprisingly, but we just didn't want to go that long.
Exactly. No, I totally hear you. Excellent. Well, we are out of time for today. Thank you very much, Barb, for being here, for educating me. As I say, I had no idea how my whiskey really got into my glass, and I do like my whiskey. So,
Excellent.
if you would like to be on the guest, if you would like to be on the guest, if you would like to be a guest on the show, you can email me at barb@googlegirl.ca or reach out on Facebook and Instagram at Above the Fold CA. Just a reminder, you can also submit questions in advance of our show on our Facebook page. I'm your host, Barb McGrath, local business owner and Google Girl. Remember, you worked hard for your success. Don't keep it a secret. Bye for now.